Hannah needs adults who can help her through the transition from childhood to adolescence. There is a special need for African-American foster homes. KGW-TV and the Children's Services Division invite you to consider the rewards of foster parenting. If you'd like more information, call 238-7577 in the Portland area or statewide 1-800-448-4133. Join Channel 8. Help this child find a foster home.
Tracy Berry, animal lover, News 8 anchorwoman.
Tonight, a special edition of Good Evening.
Let's go!
And now, tonight's lineup. Carl, the mailman Malone, makes a special delivery. The NBA's least played player talks the game. The Blazers share winning superstitions.
And if you want to win it, then you gotta drop your feet now.
And fans show you how to get your hands on the hottest seats in town. That's tonight as Good Evening gets you hyped with Blazer Hoopla.
It has to be one of the most unbelievable last minutes of a basketball game that I can remember for a long time. First of all, Clyde hits that 18 or 20 footer, nothing but net. Then in the next Utah possession, he steals the ball, dishes off to Terry. They foul Porter. He goes to the line and stands there all by himself. He has to sink both of them. Now, welcome to our special edition of Good Evening. It's Blazer Hoopla tonight.
You're Craig Walker. I'm Teresa Richardson. The entire, it says Walker, number 62.
Okay, thank you. I just want to
The entire half an hour is dedicated to Blazer Hoopla. You know, I don't think I can sit through another Blazer game like that. this is too hard on my heart.
It is, you know. Keep beating. Please keep beating.
I think one of the best matchups in this series has to be Karl Malone and Buck Williams.
You watch these guys go at it, and we'll learn more about their relationship with each other here in a minute, but you watch them go at it. It's not whether you keep the other guy from scoring as much as it is whether you survive the game.
Basketball is supposed to be a non-contact sport, but don't tell that to Buck Williams or Karl Malone. Buck stands 6'8". Karl is an inch taller. One look at how they play, and it's obvious why they're called power forwards. Karl is considered the best in the league at his position. Buck isn't far behind. When the two men go head-to-head, it's like watching a locomotive running into a tank.
Well, he's a great competitor, and he's the kind of player that he'd go out and make you raise your game to another level. That's why I enjoy playing against him. I'm not going to lie, I'm not a Buck Williams fan. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a Buck Williams fan, but I'm saying I just like the way he competes. I like anyone that goes out and earns their money night in and night out and don't complain.
The kind of game that I play, I don't approach, the game with Karl Malone any differently than I approach it anyone else that I play. Karl's a good player, and I have to come out and do the same kind of preparation that I do against anyone else. So it's no different regarding anyone else.
Buck and Karl have been battling it out on the boards for 6 years now. They're not the best of friends, but it wouldn't be fair to call them enemies either.
No, I don't know Buck too well, but I get along with him. I have no, whenever I play against a person or talk to a person, I have no grudges against anybody. I just try to go out and play. And like I said, I like it, but what I also like about it is when that horn blows, he's ready to play. And I like guys like that. I don't like guys that go through the motion. I like guys that earn their money.
As a four-time NBA All-Star, Karl earns his money too. But as tough as he is on the court, he is a cream puff off it.
I love fish, so these are fish, Oscars, Jack Dempsey's, cichlids, catfish, you name it. Those guys right there are unmarked. I don't know what kind they are, really don't. This is my cat. Come here. Come out of here. And what a great name for a cat. His name is Kitty. I'm an animal lover. I love animals, basically. When you get your brains beat in for 82 games in the playoff, you want to get back and relax, and that's part of my relaxation.
Left side of Stockton. Stockton underneath. There's the mailman. He'll score the layup.
And Buck Williams and the Trailblazers will be able to relax when they don't have to face Karl Malone on a basketball court again this year.
Now, everybody has probably heard of Karl Malone, whether you follow basketball or not.
Huge star.
But there's one person on the Utah Jazz bench that no one has even heard about. I mean, even those who follow basketball probably haven't even heard about him. His name is Walter Palmer.
Name ring any bells for you? Probably not. Walter Palmer is not only the least played player on the Utah Jazz squad, he is the least played player in the whole NBA, and chances are you're more likely to see Walter Palmer at Powell's bookstore than you are on this court right here.
In the NBA, it's not unusual for rookies to spend a lot of time on the bench. But no rookie or veteran in the entire league spent as much time on the bench this season as Utah's Walter Palmer. A 7'1" center, Walter was the least used player in the NBA, appearing in just 28 games for a total of 85 minutes.
Now, to put that into perspective, consider that the Blazers' least used player, Alaa Abdelnaby, was on the court for a total of 290 minutes during the regular season, more than 3 times as much as Walter.
I think obviously, I understood I was, being a rookie year and playing for a good team, that there was going to be a struggle for playing time, and I think any rookie going on to any team is a little frustrated with playing time, but that's just kind of the way that it goes in your first year.
Utah drafted Walter in the 2nd round out of Dartmouth College, an Ivy League school more noted for academics than athletics. If Walter's not the best-known player in the league, at least he can say he may be the best read.
Right at the moment, I'm working on T.E. Lawrence's Revolt in the Desert. I saw Lawrence of Arabia and thought I'd get the real-life account.
A few weeks ago, Walter was reading about himself. Sports Illustrated writer Jack McCallum honored Walter with the mythical 12th Man Award in recognition of his limited on-court activity.
It was good because Jack McCallum gave me a call in L.A. and asked me, he said, well, I don't know if you realize this, but, you've played the fewest number of minutes, and I wonder if you had a humorous comment or response to that. And I was really happy that he gave me a chance to respond, and I basically just said that, it's still a great job for people to have, and I'd recommend it to anyone coming out of school.
What a great way to go, though.
In the NBA?
He pulls in the paycheck. He won't get injured.
Well, there's
he gets
that.
to travel.
Now, he'd love to play, I know that.
I know he would.
That's not a bad way to make a living.
Some guys would give anything to be in his spot.
True.
He says when this greatest job is over, he plans on being a teacher like his father, who is a professor at Boston University.
Sagging socks could jinx the Blazers. The team shares some strange but true superstitions next.
Every day.
Slam it, jam it, dunk it.
Just makes you kind of want to snap your fingers. By the way, that was Jerome and Buck singing with the Crunch Time Choir and the Z100 Morning Zoo. We're going to catch up with these guys a little bit later in the show for their jam session.
Should be called very superstitious. That would fit right in, Some of the superstitions the players and coaches and fans have when it gets to sports are unbelievable, and the Blazers are no exception. Remember when they won the first 11 this year? Mm-hmm. Coach wouldn't cut his hair or change his practice clothes during the whole string.
Did he, wash the clothes that were in between?
No one asked, because it was working. When it works, you don't ask.
Could it be there's more to winning basketball games than just hitting more baskets than the other team? Well, tonight, we're going to take a look at some of the Blazers' winning superstitions. The Portland Trailblazers began the season playing like men possessed. But for the most part, the Blazers are a pretty rational bunch. You won't find voodoo dolls in the locker room, and the players practice jump shots, not black magic. But a little superstition, that's as much a part of the game as slam dunks.
I put my left sock on before my right, my left shoe on before my right. And I always stop and get a cup of coffee on my way to the game. I never failed to do that.
Most players refer to them as routines rather than superstitions, but almost all of the Blazers have certain behavior quirks they feel lead to success on the basketball court. Terry Porter, for example, likes to be the first player out of the locker room. Alaa Abdelnaby tries to avoid stepping on the end line when he walks onto the court. And Jerome Kersey insists on taking his warm-up pants off at the same spot before every game.
And then always I walk right in front of the coach. Not to say I'm being rude or anything, but I walk right in front, and then that's why I take off my pants at. For the most part, they're all frivolous, and they're all kind of silly. But, sometimes you kind of believe them after a while,
Yeah, Professional athletes are some of the most superstitious people you'll ever meet. And the most superstitious Blazer of them all...
I would probably say Danny Ainge, probably most likely.
I'd have to say Danny Ainge. You know, those baseball players, they can be very weird.
Well, two things that are pretty constant is I never get a haircut on the day of a game, and I also never cut my nails on the day of a game. Also, depending on how successful I've been is how I wear my socks. You know, sometimes I'll wear my socks straight up like this. Sometimes I'll fold them over like that, and then sometimes my game shoes are a little bit higher shoe, and I'll flop them over the tongue of the shoe like that, even depending on you know, if I need to get hot or if I need a streak to get going or something like that.
So do superstitions really help athletes play better, or is it all in their heads? Well, as long as the Blazers keep winning, why take chances?
There are other superstitions, too. This must be one. When Danny Ainge comes running out of the locker room, heading for the court at the beginning of the game, as soon as he clears the locker room door and they're all jogging out, playing that weird music, he does one of these things. As he's running, he twists in a 360 degrees.
Well, we better find out what the deal is.
Getting himself wound up for the big game.
And, of course, there's Cliff Robinson. He wears his multicolored headbands, but he won't put one on until he actually gets out on the court. And now there are some fans, about 2 rows of fans that sit right behind the Blazer bench, that pull out the same colored headband that Cliff wears.
It's not just the players. The fans, too, have some very, very strange phobias.
I try to make sure that I don't see any banners or anything that depicts that we've already won the championship. I think that's bad luck, so I try to ignore that.
And then I always bring my pom-poms. I got a long time ago at a final game or a playoff. And, you know, and wear my earrings.
First game he showed up with black marks on it, so we panicked. Somebody had a black felt marker, and we started marking the headband for the black marks so it'd match him.
Then there's Rosie Noble, a Trailblazer devotee for 2 decades, who has lifted the term ardent supporter to new heights. She wears exactly the same clothes every game, right down to the, well, unmentionables. Her grandson Nicholas explains.
It was halftime, and the Blazers were down by about 15 points. 20 some.
Well, you better tell them when they were wet when I left home, and I didn't
put them in her purse, and then everybody in back of her told her to go put them on in the stalls. So she came in and she put them on, and they came back and won the game.
And just to make sure the Blazers win the game, Rosie leaves nothing to chance. She places a spell over the opposing team.
Well, like if I say Hex Malone, Hex Eaton, Hex Stockton, Hex the other Malone, and who's the Edwards, or whoever the team is, then I point right at Sloan and hex him.
And you think it really works?
Oh, yeah. The first time it happened, I did it at somebody that never misses a free throw, so I hexed him, and he missed, and then those guys won't let me quit now.
You know, there must be something to Rosie's hexes, because look at that, we're 3 games to 1 over Utah.
Hey,
I'm not suggesting that's not probably the only reason, but it can't hurt.
Now, Rosie wanted to make sure that everybody knows that she only hexes these players on the court, not off the court. She says that hex can be broken if that player brings her a pair of signed high tops.
How many she has?
45 to date.
Oh, you didn't see everything.
How can you get your hands on Blazer seats? Reporter Ann Price finds out next. Provided by Delta. Fly to your favorite sunspot on Delta. Florida, the Bahamas, California, Mexico, or Hawaii. At Delta, we love to fly, and it shows.
2, slamming down for you. 1, 2, 3, go to the city. 3, what it's like to see. 1, 2, 3.
Tonight we're at the Memorial Coliseum, and this has to be one of the most popular places in town. People are doing anything to get inside here just to see a Blazer game.
How do you get a seat? That's the question. In fact, earlier today, the Blazers released a few hundred seats for sale for tomorrow night's big game with Utah. They were gone in 7 minutes flat.
Oh,
that quick.
Like that.
You got it.
Well, tonight, Ann Price does a little investigating to find out how you can get your hands on some of those high-price tickets.
Do you have any tickets for the game tonight? Any tickets? Nothing. Nothing.
What a stupid question. Look at them standing and cheering for the best team in the NBA, waving and clapping and screaming.
with all that pride and enthusiasm. Yes, standing and cheering, then sitting, sitting, sitting in the most popular chairs in town. Or should you call them thrones? Because to get a seat at a Blazer playoff game, it seems like you practically have to be royalty. I think that obviously when it comes to Blazer tickets, there has a lot to be said for clout. Isn't that right, Mr. Walker?
No, all you have to do is sign your name on a check.
You sign your name on a check. Is that how you got these seats?
That's exactly how I got
Now, have you had these seats for a long time, Mr. Walker?
Right after I signed my name on the check.
Just like our dear Mr. Walker, most of the folks at the games are season ticket holders. That means they get first dibs on playoff tickets. And no matter where the chair, at tournament time, every seat's a gem, even in the top rows of Section 64. Do you like sitting way up here?
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, you can see everything.
And it's cheap.
And it's cheap.
Yup, just $10 if you're a season ticket holder. Still, there are those who look longingly down from the rafters, dreaming of a better seat.
What would you sacrifice to sit courtside?
My job, probably.
What would you trade to sit down courtside?
My car, my family.
House. You would give up your family.
My sister.
Courtside seats, very impressive. Can you tell me how you got these fabulous seats, sir?
Well, a couple of years ago, I bought these seats from Herman Goldberg of Elmer's Pancake fame, and I've enjoyed them ever since.
Bet that cost a few short stacks, but what would it take to panhandle them away from you?
Okay, so a 6-month trip to Europe would be okay. You would trade
Or $50,000 cash, whichever comes first.
Of course, many of these ringside seats are owned by companies who generously share them with employees.
Is your company hiring? I'm sure that people would be interested in...
How are you at welding or pipe fitting?
I can weld. I'm a good welder.
Okay, then maybe there's a job there for you.
But that doesn't help all of you who are hoping to get your hands on one of those precious playoff tickets. Well, there really is a chance. Depending on the size of the visiting press corps and how many tickets the league reserves for officials and VIPs, there will usually be a couple of hundred leftover tickets for sale. And the way the Blazers have decided to let people know about them is with a last-minute radio and television announcement, probably just 5 minutes or so before they go on sale.
They wanted to alleviate long lines at the stores because not everybody can wait outside for a couple of days, for tickets, which is what that would require. And also, using this system, hopefully we keep these tickets out of the hands of scalpers.
It's true, there are tickets for sale outside the Coliseum on game day, but the transaction is illegal. This man is not a scalper, but he says he has seen the activity firsthand.
Now, there's some people who are out here selling tickets for a little bit more than face value. Is that true?
I heard that.
Okay.
I have heard that.
How much money do you think they could make off that profit?
Maybe double face value.
Best thing to do is just stay tuned to the television and radio stations, and they'll let fans know when the tickets are available.
Probably sage advice. Yes, it is tough getting a ticket, but keep trying. You'll be glad when you're sitting on your throne in the mighty kingdom of Rip City.
So, Mr. Walker, what would it take to get a hold of your playoff tickets? Would you ever sell them?
I offered you a pair of tickets this year, didn't I?
No, you did not.
Oh, I did too.
No,
the
you
playoff
didn't.
tickets, I have to go to the playoff games. I have to be there.
Well, I have to be there, too.
I go crazy if I'm not there. I'm sorry. Well, some people have them and some people don't. For those of you who don't, of course, you can see the game in any of those other ways that Ann told you about.
Pay good money.
It may be a problem of old once they build that new, what are you, soliciting for tickets here?
I'll do anything.
Okay, I forget what I was going to say. If you have any tickets for tomorrow night's big game with Utah, just call the station and talk to Teresa.
Please.
She makes a lot of money.
Please.
She's in show business.
I'm really very fun
wants
to take
go
along
to the game.
on a game.
Time up.
I like that line. First class. We'll knock you down on your seat. Bingo, bango, bongo, baby.
Hang on for just a few minutes more. We are eventually going to get to that video with Buck and Jerome here in just a couple of minutes.
Well, one more time. How'd you do that?
Oh, it's just a little hammer action.
Gosh, I wish I could do that.
Keep practicing.
Big Blazer game tomorrow night. We can put the wraps on the Utah series. Hope so. Keep your fingers crossed. We will also be with you tomorrow night.
We're going to Dallas, Oregon.
Aren't we,
Big
though?
D, Craig's old hometown.
The old hometown, Main Street, the courthouse, the high school.
We're going to talk to some of his teachers to find out really what kind of a teenager he was.
Oh, my.
Plus, we're going to the beach.
She caught everyone's eye with her rubber swimsuit.
Robin Picone is the queen of neoprene and one of the hottest swimsuit designers in the country.
Now she has something new for you to wear. You'll get a sizzling sneak peek in part 1 of our special series, Some Like It Hot. They look tacky, but they're really treasures.
There could be a fortune right inside those doors. All you have to know is what to look for.
Reporter Sharon Mitchell shows you how to find a fortune in the thrift store.
That's tomorrow night. We're going to visit Big D, little A-double-L-A-S.
I can hardly wait.
Go
The
Dragons.
suspense is killing me. But tonight we're going to leave you with some Blazer highlights, also some Blazer music with Jerome and Buck singing Too Hot to
Do I have
Stop
it right?
Keep working on it. They sing it with the Crunch Time Choir and also Z100. Now, you can buy that cassette tape at most music stores, and the proceeds go to help the House of Emotion.
We thank you for watching. Go Blazers. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Good night, everybody.
Effort of the season.
Well, we would expect them to, because that's the type of team that they are. They're a bunch of guys who come out and work extremely hard. And I think we plan to do the same thing. And hopefully we'll get the same type of results we've been getting. But we know it's going to be a tough game, and may the best team win.
The Jazz worked out briefly right after the Blazers, and Utah realizes that this could be the last game of their season.
It's obviously a one-game series for us. The whole complexion of the whole playoffs for us can change with one win tonight. I mean, it almost looks like it's in our favor if we can get this one tonight, and if we don't, we're out. So it's time, our backs to the wall, and it's time for us to perform here in Portland.
And it all starts here on the Coliseum floor at 7 o'clock. We'll be back later on in sports to take a look at a surprisingly loose Utah Jazz team. Steve?
Okay, Jerry, thank you very much. And this reminds
Well, they're a loose bunch, and they might be even looser if Clyde Drexler doesn't play. He's expected to play. How well he can play is up to debate. We'll just have to wait and see. We'll talk to Dr. Robert Cook coming up at around 6:15. Now with me is Delaney Rudd. Delaney Rudd, come on in. I just asked you, is this baby going back to Utah? And what were you just telling me?
Well, we hope so. We came in and we know we have to win the game to get it back to our place. So we're going to come in and play hard tonight, and hopefully we'll have a game 6.
You guys pretty loose bunch considering your predicament.
Well, at this particular time, there's no need to be uptight. We have to just come out and play good basketball, and if we do that, we don't have any reason to be uptight.
Oh, Coach Adelman says that your team is just as good as the Lakers. Why do you think you play Portland so tough?
Well, we have a great inside game with Karl Malone. John Stockton's a great point guard, so that's two strong positions they have, so we match that position, and then we get bonus plays from Jeff Malone on the outside.
Okay, well, listen, I'm going to tell you good luck, but you know not too much, man. Okay.
Thank you.
Rick, we'll be joining you a little bit later from the Coliseum. That's it from here, and we'll hear from Dr. Cook and update you on Clyde Drexler's situation.
All right, we'll keep our fingers crossed that he's going to be able to jump well tonight. Thanks, Ed. Whoever said that
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the NBA Report. Here live from Portland's Memorial Coliseum, where tonight we'll have Game 5 in the Western Conference semifinals as the Portland Trailblazers try and close out the Utah Jazz and advance halfway to their goal of winning an NBA championship, the second in the history of this franchise. Tonight on the NBA Report, we have some interesting interviews and we think a most fascinating program for you. We're going to have two one-on-one interviews. Mike Rice will talk with Danny Ainge. We'll talk a little bit about the Trailblazers and about this crowd at Portland's Memorial Coliseum and compare it to those great crowds in Boston, Massachusetts. Steve Jones will go with one-on-one today with Buck Williams, who also today was named to the NBA first-team all-defensive squad, second consecutive year that Buck has won that honor. And we're also going to go back and relive the final 2 minutes, the dramatic play-by-play of the Portland-Utah Game 4, a game many of you had a chance to see just 48 hours ago. First of all, let's bring in our world expert on basketball in the NBA, Steve Jones. And Steve, before we get too far along this evening, we may have one less playoff contender if Chicago can close out Philadelphia.
Well, they're working on it right now. The last score was 72-61. Chicago on top somewhere in the third quarter, about 5 minutes left in the ball game. But Chicago has come out with business on their mind, and that is to close the series down and wait for the winner between Boston and Detroit. And the earlier you can finish off an opponent, certainly the more rest you can get. Their main concern is the health of Michael Jordan. Tendinitis has flared up on him. It's more aggravated at this point in the season than it's ever been, so he wants to get it down and done with as soon as possible, and then we'll see what happens in the finals against either Boston or Detroit.
Well, the two teams that could use the greatest rest are those two teams. It's like those two fighters who are slugging it out in the ring, and eventually they both go down at the same time. Boston, Detroit, the big story yesterday was Mark Aguirre.
Well, Aguirre finally stepped up. I mean, you're hearing all the stories that he'll be gone a year from now, and what they care about is what happened right now. Mark Aguirre, can you be the guy that was at Dallas, the guy that they traded for? He came up with a huge offensive game. Had they been getting those kinds of performances from Aguirre all season long when Isaiah was down, life would have been easier for Chuck Daly and the Pistons. So the question is, can he do it back-to-back? We'll find out tomorrow night. But what will be interesting is which team is mentally the toughest under all of the adversity that they're currently suffering. I give Boston a little bit of edge.
Here in the West, we could have a finals, Portland-Los Angeles, as early as tonight. We look at the Western grid. And, Steve, I guess the question to you at this stage is, will it be over tonight for both Utah and Golden State?
The home teams intend for it to be over. I mean, you know, if you're the visitor, you're trying to do everything that you can to extend the series. It should be over. Portland's got to come out and play a hard, aggressive game, and the Los Angeles Lakers have to do the same thing. They've got to be discouraging at the outset and force an opponent to play uphill basketball the rest of the time. If they do that, yeah, we'll see the Lakers in here Saturday.
We're about to give you our first of three trivia questions when we come back. Mike Rice sits down and goes one-on-one with Danny Ainge.
You know, early in the season when Drazen Petrovic was on the team, the Blazers now are getting to the point where they're getting close maybe to winning a championship. And Drazen had a lot of thoughts on, did he need to stay on a team that might win a championship, or should he go and actually get some playing time in? Now that you're getting closer, what advice would you give Drazen now compared to then?
I think it's important for a young player to play. I think it's good for Drazen to be in New Jersey, even though New Jersey's out of the playoffs, and he got a chance to play. And I think if you ask Drazen right now, I think he'd tell you that he is very happy with where he's at right now. And you know, we have a player on our team right now, Alaa Abdelnaby, who I think would give anything to play in the NBA. I think as a young player, you need a chance to play and prove to your peers and prove to the fans and all the management throughout the league that you can play. I think in situations like myself and Cooper and Walter Davis, it's much better. We've established ourselves as players in the league, and once you've done that, then it's better to play in a winning situation.
Coming off the bench, you said playing Cooper now, Walter Davis, and yourself, you're happy trying to win a championship. How much tougher is it for you and Walter Davis? You've been starters, stars on the NBA All-Star team. How much tougher is it now coming into the game? And there's some situations it's very difficult to come into a game and look good, especially in the playoffs. Is it a lot tougher?
It is a lot tougher, especially in the playoffs, like you mentioned. I think that you need more minutes in the playoff type of atmosphere. First of all, the crowds are more into it. It takes a little bit longer to, the defensive intensity increases a little bit. I don't think that you can use your bench quite as much in the playoffs. I think Rick will probably go with the starters a little bit more in playoff situations. It's not as fast a game. Generally speaking, it's a slower game. Teams don't turn the balls over quite as much, so in the concentration levels there, and like I said, the intensity level increases. So it's tougher. It's tougher in the playoffs because you have a tendency not to get quite as many minutes and get into the flow as much as you do in the regular season.
You said the word tougher. The Utah game in Utah, really, to my way of looking at it, had to be one of the best victories for the Blazers all year, simply because the Utah crowd was into it so much. How much does a crowd like Utah's affect the playing of a visiting team?
I don't think it affects the visiting team so much, Mike. I think that a great crowd at home just keeps a home team from getting tired. You know, you come out of a timeout and you might be a little bit tired, but that crowd, the energy just gets the adrenaline flowing, and I just think it really helps the home team. And I think that Utah, they got back in the game. We had a 14-point lead when the crowd just started going crazy. And it wasn't so much it affects us as much as that they're overplaying every passing lane, and they're just not tired, and their energy level is much greater.
How would you compare, speaking of crowds, the Boston crowd is always supposed to be an outstanding weapon for the home team. How would you compare Boston with Portland, the way they're reacting at games?
I think Boston and Portland are very similar. This is my first year here in Portland. I think last year the Portland crowd was probably more intense, more consistently. I think in Game 5, the crowd that we had here was as good as any crowd could be anywhere. I think in games of the Seattle series, I think in games 1 and 2 of Utah series and 1 and 2 of Seattle series, they kind of picked their spot. I think the crowd is kind of like the players were in those games. I think they felt like it was games we should win, and they really weren't into it unless they had to be into it. But when the crowd is into it constantly, it makes a big difference for us.
How about off the court? How does the community, this is your first year and my first year in Portland, how does it, the Portland people in the city getting into the Portland team, is it a lot like Boston or different?
It's very similar again. I think the difference in Boston is it's all of New England. And you could go to Providence, you could go to New Hampshire, Maine, Connecticut, and everybody is Celtics fans. So the amount of people, the population there is so much greater than it is here in Portland. But here, everywhere you go, you have great support. The fans are great. You got the Blazer signs in every car window and every supermarket and every office building. It says "Go Blazers," and that does mean a lot to the players and to the whole organization.
The last question, Doug Moe used to yell at his players a lot. Rick doesn't do that a lot. Do you notice in the playoffs it helps to have a coach quiet, or do you think a coach that's yelling and screaming all the time, like a Doug Moe, is better for a playoff action?
My personal opinion is I think that you need to do a little bit of both. I think that the yelling can get old, and I think no yelling is not good either. I think that players need to be held accountable. I think that film sessions and pointing out players' mistakes, I think that a coach pointing out players' mistakes in a game can be helpful. Too much of it is destructive. It doesn't do any good at all. It defeats the purpose. I think that somewhere in between. I think Rick does a good job. You know, you say Rick's pretty mild-mannered. He's not so mild-mannered in that half-court locker room or post-game talks with us. He's pretty tough, and he's very competitive, and I think he does just about right.
Is the team thinking of L.A. tonight, or will they be thinking of strictly Utah?
I think we're still thinking of Utah, Mike. We better be. Utah's too good a team to relax on. You know, they have nothing to lose now. They're going to come out and play free. We've already seen what they can do in those situations. In Game 2, they came back. Game 4, they came back from deficits, and I think that they played with nothing to lose in those types of situations. So I'm sure they're going to come out very aggressive. And, you know, we've seen John Stockton, Karl Malone perform before. We know that they're not quitters by any means. So we're going to have a tough game tonight.
Danny Ainge, who may have a larger role than usual in tonight's game, depending in large part on the health of Clyde Drexler's foot. Word from the Blazer locker room at this hour is that Clyde will play and, in fact, will start, but he still has a very painful toe. Late word from Chicago, Philadelphia. The Bulls continue to lead somewhere between 5 and 9 points, but Chicago remains in control. In just a moment, we'll return with more on the NBA Report as Steve Jones goes one-on-one with Buck Williams.
Buck, let's talk a little bit about the psychology of the playoffs. You're now in a position to close out the Utah Jazz. Everyone feels that it's automatic. What are your thoughts about the importance of this game tonight in terms of this series and the fact that it could possibly go on?
Well, Steve, we've been in this situation before. You know, last year we played Detroit. We won one game in Detroit. We go home and they win the last 3 games to win the World Championship. You know, I think this year we learned our lessons that we have to take each game one game at a time and not overlook a very fine basketball team in the Utah Jazz. They present a lot of problems for us, and hopefully tonight we're matured in that area and we won't get too overconfident. We'll come in here and hopefully take care of business and able to win this 5th game.
All right, we talk about the playoffs and the fact that in order to do well, you certainly have to have talent, but how much of it is psychological? How much of it, starting with game 1, is a game within a game? So if you're the home team with home court advantage, you have to have the first game. Then you have to have the 3rd game, or you have to have the 5th game. How much psychology is involved in any series?
Well, a lot of psychology is involved. I think the most important thing you try to do as a team is to make sure you're mentally and physically prepared to play the game, first of all. And I think you really have to try to take care of your home court advantage. And that's why it's called home court advantage, because I think over the years you look at Boston and the Lakers, they've always had home court advantage, always been able to win at home. And I think now we're in a position where as long as we're taking care of our home court advantage and just maintaining, we really don't get ourselves into really psychological warfare, you know, because we're just taking care of business. But, you know, it's so important. I mean, just approach the game that, hey, we have to win this game, and everyone has to be sharp mentally coming down the stretch, being able, the ability to execute, which we weren't able to do last year, again, in the Detroit series, which I think we have matured, and we've gotten to the point we can execute. And a lot of people say, you know, you have a lot of athletes on your team. You know, yes, but you have to get those athletes to play together. You have to get those athletes to be able to execute and rebound the basketball and really the fundamental parts of the game of basketball. And I think that's why Golden State is so successful. It's not they have so many great athletes, that they have mental approach to the game and their ability to play together.
All right, you know, when you talk about the Utah Jazz, and they were in a must-win situation in Game 3, they seemed to flatten out a little bit in Game 4. Do you think they have the ability to emotionally raise themselves up in a foreign arena? Yeah, they played 2 very good games here and almost were able to steal Game 2, but still, this is a team that struggles out on the road.
Well, I think this is a game they can raise their level of play. But I think, first of all, having that back-to-back game really took a great deal out of Utah, as much per se as it did our basketball team, because they don't have the kind of bench that we have. I was able to get some rest in Game 3. Karl Malone did not have that luxury of rest, nor did John Stockton. So in a back-to-back series, I don't think they can raise their level of play. But coming in tonight, it's a very crucial game because they've had at least a day to recuperate, and the starting 5 can sort of get their legs back under them, and they can present a lot of problems. We don't come out and take control of the game very early.
Speaking of big problems, Karl Malone is a huge problem for all of his opponents, and he's had some success since his first game. What are the things that you can do to possibly make it more difficult for him at the start of Game 5?
Well, Steve, I felt I played him quite well in Game 1. He would not get any kind of fouls. I did not send him to the foul line in Game 1 as much as I did in Game 2, for example. I thought Game 2, possibly the best game that he played so far in the series. As long as I'm keeping his shooting percentage down, as long as I'm forcing him off the box and making him work for every shot that he gets, I feel as though I'm doing my job. But secondly, Karl Malone, he's going to score. You're not going to stop Karl Malone. You can neutralize him, but you're not going to stop him. So I just go out with a framework in mind that, hey, this guy's going to shoot a great number of shots. and I'm going to just make him work for everything he's got. I mean, he's shooting 20 times a game, averaging 30 points, and you'll take those percentages any day. I know I will, anyhow.
Well, you know, another part of the game, and for an emotional team like yours, is the officiating. And it has been uneven at best, and it has affected the team. But one thing that the team seems to have been able to do is leave the officials alone. Have they made this conscious decision that you can't get involved with the officials, or just something that you've reacted to or you've grown to?
I think it's something we really have made adjustment in that particular area, but most importantly, I think we really have matured. We don't have as many emotional outbursts as we had last year. On occasions, one or two players may get emotionally involved with a call that official makes, but outside of that, I think we really is focused in on winning. And I think once you do that, the little petty stuff that evolves before you get to that objective, we're not too much concerned with. But I think the main objective now is to win a championship.
In focusing on the championship, and you know that you'll see some of these officials again, it's like with you and the little pat with Dick Bavetta. You all try to make statements at different times. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Do you think that the officials can change the game once you stop playing the game?
There is no question. I always feel that the most aggressive team always get the ability to play a little more aggressive and maybe get away with some fouls, for example. But when you play passive, when you start out playing passive and then you try to play physical basketball, that's when you have a problem because the officials are not accustomed to see you playing that aggressive. So sometimes when we get in trouble, we come out play, you know, just passive basketball from the beginning. Then, okay, we say, we wake up, maybe we got to play more aggressive, and then we start picking up fouls. And I think what we've done so far in this series that we came out playing aggressive from the beginning. The officials expect us to play aggressive basketball, so now we don't really get the calls that we were getting when we were playing passive. So I think it's so important. It's just the psyche of the referees, knowing what kind of calls that Bavetta make versus Jake O'Donnell. And I think we're grown accustomed to the kind of calls that each official makes, and it really makes a big difference. You know, for example, when I patted Dick on his behind, I mean, he's just not a good sport because in basketball, when a guy makes a good move, the first thing you do, good move. And it worked this time.
Buck Williams, and of course his assignment, Karl Malone. No laughing matter. He'll come with his game face on in just a few moments. Portland's Memorial Coliseum, another sellout crowd. And high drama tonight as the Trailblazers take on the Utah Jazz and try and close out the Western Conference semifinal series. For many of you, you're still reliving Game 4. It was perhaps one of the most dramatic playoff games ever played in the history of this franchise, and certainly the only one that saw 18 lead changes in the fourth and final quarter. For many of you, it was an emotional roller coaster. For others, it left stomachs churning and hearts pumping. In just a moment, we'll come back and give you a replay of the final 2 minutes of that dramatic game. And as you see, rolling up on the 2-minute warning.
2 minutes remaining, 2 minutes.
Karl Malone. Rebound Stockton, slides inside. Tough shot, score! The smallest man on the floor. Jazz by 1, 1:40 to play.
Came up with a big play there. That was a tough shot.
Duckworth, Aldridge, score, and Portland regains the lead. High drama in the high desert. Back and forth we go. 98-97, 1:25 left.
Each team scored every possession the last 3 or 4 minutes.
Stockton down the lane, switch hands, score! He is fouled and it's counted.
Terry Porter has done a good job on John Stockton, keeping in front all day. Lets John get by him there, reaches in. John makes a tough left-handed shot.
And missed the free throw. Duckworth rebound. Portland down 1. Porter lost the ball. Kersey found it.
Great hustle by Terry there after losing the ball to come back and get the ball back.
Moving up on 1 minute to play in the game. Holding foul, Utah. Mike Brown, he has fouled out of the ball game. 13 points for Big Mike Brown. And Mark Eaton replaces him. And listen to the hand for Brown.
Looking inside for Duck one more time. Brown just throws him down.
Excellent call. The camera catches it all.
When you're posting up like that, you really got to make sure you make contact with the defender. This late in the game, you don't always get that call.
29 for Kevin Duckworth. He has made 12 of 22 from the field and 4 of 5 at the line. That's what you wear to a Salt Lake Safari. 30 for Big Duck. Utah timeout. 1 minute to play. And Portland leading by 1. And let's just capture the sights and sounds of the Salt Palace. Playoff tension at its highest. They trail 2 games to 1. Portland is leading by 1 point with 1 minute to play in Salt Lake City. Here we go. Let's watch. Shot clock at 10. Karl Malone. Jazz by 1. Karl Malone. Portland timeout. 43 seconds to play. What a game. 101-100 with 43 seconds left. The Blazers trail but have the ball. One thing I'm sure Portland wants is 2 possessions, and that means getting a shot up in less than 15 seconds. Clyde. Yes! The clutch basket by Drexler, and Portland leads by 1.
They went to the pick and roll. Jeff Malone dropped behind the pick. Clyde rised up and hit the 15 shot. Big shot.
Shot clock at 14. Karl Malone. Shot clock at 8. Throw it away. Jazz now have to foul. And there's the foul. Karl Malone with a foul. He didn't take the shot and threw it away.
The time in the game, he's been their main go-to guy, and he didn't want to take the shot. Clyde made a great steal. He's always the type of player you're afraid to leave that ball out there because he's always able to run it down. Portland's trying to just run out the clock. Terry Porter gets it across the line.
Big free throws. Big free throws for Terry. Portland leading by 1. Porter has been such a great clutch player for this team.
He didn't get off to a great start in the Seattle series, but in Game 5, when it was time to come forward, Terry did. He just keeps improving every year.
And Portland by 3. Jazz have only 1 full timeout left in 120. They need a 3-point field goal. Stockton for 3. Off the mark. Bailey keeps it alive. 3 seconds left. They've got to get a 3. 1 second. Counts if it goes. It is over. It is over. And the Blazers have won the game. Portland 104. Utah 101. The Blazers lead the series 3 games to 1.
Great win. Blazers came out. Good defense in the last 30 seconds of the game. Made Utah take 3 tough shots.
And so it was on Sunday night in Salt Lake City, setting the stage for a possible series-ending game tonight. That's the NBA report. Now stay tuned. The starting lineups and all the play-by-play action of Game 5 coming right up.
They struggled a little bit because Utah, they came in with nothing to lose. They felt very confident about their game. They shot well. They shot like 61% in the first 2 quarters. Portland came in at 47%, made it very tough on them. But Portland got it going, as we all know. But Utah did play on a lot of luck. It didn't carry them through the whole game, thank goodness.
Certainly wasn't easy. Let's roll the videotape and take a look at tonight's highlights. Now, the Blazers were stagnant in the first. At one point, they trailed by 10, but this little sequence wakes them up. Karl Malone throws down Buck Williams. They have to be separated, and would you believe, from this point on, the Blazers go on a 23-2 run. Buck gets fired up. He follows home the miss, and Portland only trails by 1 at the halftime break. They're still red hot to open the third. Buck will jam off the fast break. 65-52 Blazers by 13. And when Duckworth knocks down the jumper, the Blazers have scored the first 16 points of the quarter, completing a 29-4 run. And Portland keeps the third quarter in its favor. Clyde DeCliff for the slammer. Blazers take a 10-point lead into the fourth. Time and again, the Jazz try to come back. Karl Malone with the jumper, but the Blazers always have an answer. They execute the half-court game. Perfect pick and roll. Buck jams and a 9-point advantage. Once again, Utah trying to bounce back. John Stockton for 3, but once again, the Blazers do something special. This time, the defense. A steal leads to Clyde's jam, and Portland's lead is hanging steady at 8 points. Now to crunch time. Jeff Malone was dangerous all night. He scores in traffic 3 different times. Utah pulls within 3, but they could never get over the hump. Pretty play. Clyde to Terry. The lead is 5 with 3 minutes to play. Then a critical bucket. Buck Williams inside. 14 points, 12 boards for Williams, and Portland hangs on. They clinch it at the free throw line and win 103-96. The Blazers advance to the Western Conference Finals for the 2nd year in a row. To the scoreboard, 103-96 the final. Drexler and Porter each score 22. 6 Blazers scored in double figures. Portland wins 4-1. Critical game to win, Greg, because now they get some rest.
They will get some rest. Both teams will rest, matter of fact, because L.A. won tonight, as we both know. But you have to give a lot of credit to the coaching department tonight. They did a wonderful job calling the plays, and did a great job in closing minute of the ball game. They put Portland into a press. This complicated John Stockton a great deal. They got some turnovers. We got some nice shots on a fast break situation. This created problems for Golden State, and hopefully we'll be able to use the same press against the Lakers, as we saw some of the film highlights tonight against the Lakers when Golden State put it on them. They had a tough time with it.
Should be interesting. We'll talk more about that in just a second. We'll take a quick break and come right to the Coliseum right now, where Jerry Murphy is standing by with former Blazer Darnell Valentine. Jerry.
Steve, push came to shove in the second quarter of tonight's game. It turned physical. The Utah Jazz, I guess, had that in mind as part of their plan. The Trailblazers did respond. They did not back down, and I think they used that as an impetus to take their game higher. Darnell, as a player, from your point of view as a player, when that challenge is issued to you, when they start bumping and grinding and coming after you, you've got to find it within yourself to respond, right?
Well, certainly, and you knew coming into the game, Utah, their back being up against the wall, they were going to try to impose their will on the Blazers, and their will is to be physical. Well, that's how you try to compensate the difference in athletic ability. The Blazers were able to focus on their game and continue to play well.
And the crowd ate it up.
Well, you like to do that kind of thing when you're playing in Utah, if that's your game. Sometimes it backfired, and tonight, as was mentioned earlier, it was a wake-up call for the Blazers. I think it started with Clyde getting that flagrant foul with Mike Brown, and then I think that woke him up. He stopped thinking about his toe, and he just caught fire, and I think it spread. It was infectious to the rest of the team.
It got physical inside. The Blazers answer the challenge. They talked about it after the game. Let's take a look and a listen.
Well, we said, hey, we got to, turn it up on these guys. If they want to play us like that, we're just going to have to go out and just beat them. So hopefully no one gets hurt.
If you're going to back down, you're going to get beat. And we wouldn't back down. And I think, like I said, you got to give our team credit. We beat a very, very good team in 5 games, and it says a lot for our guys.
We wanted to come out and just take control, and the third period was the time to do it. And luckily we held on to sustain the victory. But, that team is tough. If you get them down, they're always going to come back. So we like the way they play because they're similar to our team. They come back with a lot of character, and they have players who have a lot of heart.
We had our problems that mostly we were able to force our wheels on Utah and make them play our brand of basketball, and that's why we went on so many spurts. Yes, we played a half-court set with the majority of the time. We forced them to run, and we did such a a fine job on the glass.
We're not going to back out from those guys. They're a big physical team, and those guys out there, you know, bumping us, and you have to return the favor. You know, the referee wasn't calling a whole lot, and so, you know, we knew it was going to be that type of ball game. So we weren't going to back down, but, you know, sometimes that picked teams up, sometimes guys back down, and maybe it did, but it was just that stretch in the third quarter, they took it to us.
I think we ended up playing into their hands a few times and giving them an opportunity to beat us instead of letting us, if we'd have kept our concentration a little bit more, you never know. So you have to give them credit. They're a great team. They're very talented.
And so now the Blazers take their talent up against the Los Angeles Lakers. That series starts on Saturday. Darnell, 4 days until they play again. Good or bad?
Oh, that's great for the Blazers. 4 days is not a lot of time after you spend 82 games and exhibition season, that type of thing. 4 days is not a lot of time, and the Blazers, with some of their, especially Clyde, being able to win, I think it'll be a big boost.
All right, rocking and rolling. It begins on Saturday against the Los Angeles Lakers. Steve, back to you.
Thank you. Darnell, nice to see you again. You're looking great.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, let's take a look now at the stats, some key numbers for tonight's game. Blazers, 29-4 run, late second quarter, early third. 16 straight to open up the third. Blazers collected 17 offensive rebounds for 26 points. Buck Williams, 14 points, 12 rebounds. Roll the videotape, and Greg, this guy had a great Game 5 and really a great series. And this little shoving match with Karl Malone really lit him off tonight.
It ignited the whole ball club because at this point the whole game was helter-skelter in the second quarter. Everybody's bumping and grinding. They were saying Utah was being very physical, and we did nothing about it until that point right there. With that last 90 seconds of the second quarter, we became very physical and started throwing it back in their face. And, of course, it was like a one-point difference at the half.
You know, I think a lot of pressure on Buck in this series. Everybody was talking about the Buck-Karl Malone matchups. A lot of pressure on Buck, but he handled it well. Karl had some pretty good ball games, but Buck kept them under control.
He did. Buck is giving away like 50 pounds against this man. This is 256 man, 6'7". Buck is like 217 or 220, somewhere in the neighborhood there. But Buck did a tremendous job putting his elbow on him. And also Cliff came in and did a very good job on Thurl tonight, put him into foul trouble, but eventually fouled out of the ball game. So both the guys down the paint did a wonderful job tonight.
Get ready for Saturday.
We're ready.
Make a call.
Yes. Call.
4 games? 5 games?
6.
Okay, Blazers in 6. Okay, join us when we come back. We'll have highlights of the
That's right. The Portland Trailblazers do it in 5 games, 103-96 the final. They win the NBA Western Conference semifinal series, 4 games to 1. Now we'll head on to take on the Los Angeles Lakers for the right to be called the best in the West. But first of all, tonight's game, the Utah Jazz. Another big run by Portland. This one comes a little earlier, but again, the Jazz make it interesting down the stretch.
It's a very slow-starting game. I thought it was poorly played at the beginning, and then Ainge came in and played very, very well after that. But this series really was Buck Williams all the way. When you think back about all the big plays, all the big runs that Utah made, Buck was right there, standing tall, just great series. He can rest well tonight. He's going to need it.
It was interesting to see today, too, because late in the second quarter, the Blazers not playing well, trailing by 10 just a few seconds before. Buck Williams gets thrown to the ground by Karl Malone. This happened once before when he threw Drexler to the ground a few days ago. We knew what happened then. It happened again. The Blazers closed out the period with an 8-2 run, started the third quarter with a 16-0 run. It's almost like saying, don't mess with us.
Yes, but that's the kind of game that that Karl Malone has to play. The referees, they had their hands full tonight. It was very difficult. In fact, key moment, I thought, at halftime, Daryl Garrison, the league's top official, goes over, pulls the coaches together, and tells them, hey, we got to cool the rough stuff. It looked like the Utah Jazz just sort of fell apart at that point. The Blazers just kept charging. Reminds me very much of a situation Celtics-Lakers years ago in the very finals. The league sent a directive out. Cool the rough stuff. The Celtics never even told their players about the directive. The Lakers played like a bunch of pansies out there, and the Celtics blew them out. But it was a very, very strong game. Drexler had the huge second half. I really thought his activity, his aggressiveness turned the tide. I thought he should have been thrown out. They initially called a punching foul on him in the second quarter. They changed it to a flagrant foul. There was a ton of flagrant fouls. Drexler stays in the game. Offensive rebounds was a big, big key for the Blazers. They had 17-8 over the Utah Jazz. And then I thought that Rick Adelman did an outstanding job of really getting his players into the game at the right time. His substitution pattern was brilliant. He had all the right guys in there at the right time. For Utah, on the other hand, they played a good first half, a very, very poor third quarter. And then one of the big problems for Utah was their inability to throw down the clutch plays. Jeff Malone had 2 big jumpers when the score was really close tonight. Plus, he had a turnover. He missed those jumpers. All series long, Utah could not make the tough plays.
And that may have been a point of the conditioning, too, because John Stockton missed a couple late in the contest, and he'd only had a few minutes of rest as opposed to Terry Porter, who had big moments. That could have made a difference down the stretch.
Stockton and Karl Malone played very well, but there's a big difference between playing well when you're ahead, which the Jazz rarely were, and playing well when you're behind. In this series, Malone and Stockton did have good series, but they were always behind. I thought the biggest problem for the Jazz was Mark Eaton. And being a UCLA man, Mark's a UCLA man, it's hard for me to say this, but...
I know you're swallowing hard there.
Well, he just did not play well, and to me, it's tough to see how far the Utah Jazz can go with Mark Eaton at center.
Well, right now they're going on vacation. That's the plain facts with the Trailblazers as they win it 4-1. Now, courtside, of course, Ann Schatz was watching the entire contest. She has the game highlights. Ann?
The Blazers looked like they were sleepwalking through most of that first half. This was their only lead at 13-12. Clyde, sore toe and all, draws the foul and scores. But then the Jazz got after it. Thurl Bailey with a nice job off the bench. 24-20 Utah after 1. Portland drew even early in the second before the Jazz went on a 12-2 run and went up by 10 big ones. The Bucks fired up the sluggish Blazers when he tangled with Karl Malone after the mailman threw him to the floor late in the half. The Blazers then had a spurt of their own, outscoring Utah 8-1 in the final 1.5 minutes. Buck with the nifty putback to beat the buzzer, 52-51 Jazz at the break. Portland kept up that intensity into third quarter. Clyde and Porter drilled consecutive three-pointers. Then it's Buck coming in with the hard stuff. The Blazers on a 16-zip spree, up by 15. Now, Utah cut that to 6, but Portland got it back to double digits, 78-68 after 3. The Blazers weren't about to let this one get away. Their tough defense forces another Utah turnover. Terry to Clyde, you betcha. The Jazz hung tough, down by 3. But this Drexler to Porter pass and hoop was huge with 3 minutes to go. Then it was Buck's turn with just over a minute to play. That was Portland's last basket, but Utah couldn't do diddly down the stretch. Blazers win at 103-96 to wrap up a very physical, tough series against Utah.
I'm just so proud of our guys because this is a game that they had to have, and they came at us, especially the first half, and that terror we went on at the start of the third period was just unbelievable.
It shows that, you know, you keep putting out the effort, you never know what's going to happen. I'm just glad that we was able to win it in 5 games, so I'll go fishing tomorrow.
Is that what you're going to be doing? You got a couple days off?
I got 1 day off, and I'm taking advantage of it.
And what can you say about Clyde? 22 points, 8 assists, 9 boards, and he didn't even know if he was going to play with that turf toe.
People really don't give him the sort of credit he deserves. You know, every night he comes out and have a great game statistically, and he's been doing it for years now, and it's good if people getting to recognize what a very fine basketball player Clyde Drexler is.
So it looks like it's going to be the Blazers and Lakers for the Western Conference Championship Series, Game 1 in Portland on Saturday. From Memorial Coliseum, Ann Schatz, Newsroom 6 Sports.
Okay, that's win number 7 in the playoffs for the Portland Trailblazers. You can see it on the set. It takes 15 to win the NBA crown. The Blazers now just about halfway there. When we come back, Bill will be at the chalkboard, but first, the stats from today's game.
Come out and just play like a pansy out there. Karl Malone, he's out there throwing bodies around, trying to get in fights. I think you've got to play like that if you're going to win. On the chalkboard tonight, Rick, we got 3 different things. We're going to do something a little bit different tonight. No highlights, just 3 different plays that were very key in this entire series. The first play was Mark Eaton, the big guy for Utah, stays in the middle all the time, and Duckworth was here posting up, trying to get low post position. But what worked at will for the Blazers was penetration by anybody, by Ainge, by by Drexler, by Kersey. All you have to do against Mark Eaton is drive with the dribble right at him, and he will always stay in there. Duckworth just steps out away from the basket, always has nice, good, short 10-footers. That's always available. Now, the other key play I felt in this series was the high post shuffle, which Terry Porter made a big shot in Game 2 to win it at the end. He made another one tonight with 3 minutes to go. On that high post shuffle, here's your high post man, here's your wing man out here, and here's the guard. It was Terry Porter tonight. When he comes off to get down to the low post, this is where his goal wants to be. The defensive center, a Duckworth or a Mark Eaton or anybody who's playing defensive center has to step out and get in his way to slow him down, to allow his man to get there Mark Eaton never did that. Terry Porter got 2 layups, crucial times in the games. Now, the third point in the chalkboard tonight, hey, Magic Johnson is coming to town. Where do you have to effectively contain him on the basketball court? I think that there's 4 key positions that you have to neutralize Magic Johnson. One of them is right here in the low left box. One of them is in the low right box. How are they going to double team him? Are they going to double team him? They've got to neutralize him as much as they can. Also out here, you've got to meet Magic in the backcourt. You cannot let him get a run at you. You've got to slow him down and not let him get all the way to the hoop there. The 4th spot is right here. This is their pick and roll, where they'll run the pick and roll with their center or James Worthy, whoever. The pick and roll, which worked very well for Utah, is a key play for the Lakers. They're going to have to, the Blazers are going to have to neutralize Magic in these 4 spots. But hey, these circles are getting so overlapping almost. We'll just do it right here for Magic. You got to slow him down right there on the basketball court. It's going to be a tough job. Every Blazer should have a chance at him. I'd even think about playing Buck Williams on him, and even Cliff Robinson. Buck Williams had such a big series against Karl Malone. What a great defensive player he is. Give him a shot at Magic.
And, of course, he was named to the all-defensive team today. Well, as Bill has mentioned, the Lakers will be coming to town. They advance, winning 4 games to 1 over the Golden State Warriors. Today's game went into overtime. The final was 124 to 119. Pick up action of that one late in the 4th quarter. The Warriors looking like they're going to be the victor. But it doesn't exactly happen for a while, because James Worthy's jumper puts L.A. on top by 4, 98-94. The Warriors answer. Mitch Richmond offers his own jump shot prowess. 108-106 Warriors, 6 ticks left. But, again, a super comeback by the Lakers. Wide open for Perkins. It's tied at 108, and we're headed into overtime. The Warriors never get on track. James Worthy helps ice it for the Lakers. They win at 124-119. The Blazers up next Saturday in Portland. So, again, looking at the score, the Blazers win it. So, too, the Los Angeles Lakers, 4 games to 1 over the Golden State Warriors. 124 to 119 was the final in that one. And also playing tonight, the Philadelphia 76ers. Well, they lose to the Chicago Bulls. The final, that one was 100 to 95 end result. The Bulls clinched their series 4 games to 1. We'll be back with a look at what it will take to beat the Los Angeles Lakers, but first a look at the upcoming schedule in the NBA. In October for preseason, where the Trailblazers opened up their preseason schedule against the Los Angeles Lakers. And now it's coming down to those same 2 teams to be called themselves the best in the West and a right to play for the NBA crown.
This is going to be a fantastic series of basketball. We've got 2 weeks of the 2 top teams. People have been dreaming about this type of series for a very, very long time. I think the 2 biggest keys are Clyde Drexler and Jerome Kersey. Their matchups against Magic and James Worthy are going to be the keys for the Blazers' success. They're going to have to play with great intelligence and play terrific position defense and commit no silly fouls. Now, in the center, the Lakers have been very, very weak underneath since they lost Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The Blazers have to exploit that weakness, that lack of toughness under the backboards. Duckworth and Cliff Robinson and Buck Williams are really going to have to go at it. Vlade, who has not been playing well for the Lakers, will start playing better. Eldon Campbell, keep your eye on him. He's on a tear right now, hasn't played much until this point, but right now he's red hot. The last key is don't rely on the home court advantage. This series, I believe, will be won by the team that plays the best basketball regardless. Both teams can win on the road. They are both great teams, and one of them will come out on top. For the Lakers, hey, it's Magic Johnson as the first key, Magic Johnson as the second, and more Magic as the third. This guy is a tremendous basketball player. He can do everything. He's got an incredibly intelligent mind. He's got a huge heart about winning. Somebody on the Trailblazers is going to have to stand up and say, Magic, I'm taking you on, and we're going to win this series. We're going to beat you because I'm going to beat you, the same way that Buck Williams beat Karl Malone in this great series against Utah.
And of course, they had a great regular season, both teams winning on the other team's home floor. That will all begin Saturday at the Coliseum in Portland. Game 2 set for Tuesday, also at the Coliseum. And both games, in fact, throughout the playoffs, of course, Bill and I will be here for Playoffs 91, 5:15 on Saturday. We'll rejoin you. But right now, let's go back to the newsroom and rejoin Eric and Marcia.
Indicates that it should be an outstanding series. They match up well, but I still like the Portland Trailblazers, and I'll tell you why I like the Portland Trailblazers. They are so tough at home. They have not lost, Ernie, a game on their home court in the playoffs last year or this.
Yeah.
And that's outstanding. And the Lakers have lost at home. They lost to the Golden State Warriors in the previous series.
Well, let's take a look at how these two teams match up. The L.A. Lakers, the Portland Trail Blazers opening their series. It'll be at Portland when they start. But as far as the Lakers go, magic. One word.
You can see Chris Mullin says, you're not getting in the middle, but look at him. That's why they call him Magic. The guy is unbelievable.
He's getting some help, too, guys like Sam Perkins.
Well, Perkins, of course, made the play here that tied it up, and he had no other choice. Take it to the hoop. When in doubt, take it to the hoop, and he did.
That led him into overtime. James Worthy had a big hoop. He also had clutch free throws. You know, when it comes down to crunch time right here, 28.1 seconds to go, and Worthy bottoms out the free throw. Now, it's going to be the Portland Trail Blazers, who, as you said, perfect at home during the postseason, and a 16-0 run, crucial yesterday to start the third period.
They live off of those. They love to come out and really blitz you, either the start of the game or the start of the third quarter. Last night, it was the third quarter. That 16-0 run was outstanding. They have so many different weapons, Ernie, that can hurt you in so many different ways. They're really an outstanding ball club. There they are, pounding the boards, the best rebounding team in basketball.
Final 9 seconds, Portland leading by 7. Blazers will go to the conference finals for the second straight year. Karl Malone blocked by Danny Ainge. It is over. Portland by 7. The Blazers go to the Western Conference Finals.
Rip City for Portland as they are into the finals. 15-0 versus Western Conference teams in the playoffs at home the last 2 seasons. That's the big stat you're talking about.
Really is, but I think the turning point as far as their season, they had a great season all the way, but they were struggling a little bit there at the end of March, at the first part of March, and the end of February. They lost some ball games, and look what happened. They're up in Seattle. They're down 23 in the third, 24 in the third quarter. They come back and win the game. 2 nights later, they go to the Forum. Tough place to win. They're down 21 in the third quarter. They come back and beat the Lakers. From that time on, they didn't lose another game until the last game of the year against the Phoenix Suns, and it was a meaningless game as far as the Blazers were concerned.
So that is the coach's perspective on this series. Now let's get the players' perspective, and let's listen into Magic Johnson.
I think they play good defense, and they get out in their transition game, and they're the best in basketball when they run on the floor. And they put pressure on you at all times. So we must try to play good defense and try to just get back in transition, because they kill you. And then you can't turn the ball over on them. They really dunk on you then. So they just got a great team, and they can play 12 guys. And I just think it's going to be a great series, because every game that we played this year was a 1-point or overtime game, and both teams have won in each other's buildings. So it's going to be a great series.
Blazers won 3 out of 5 this year, 2 of those games in overtime. It's going 7. It's going Portland's way. You heard it here first, or second, somewhere around there. When we come back here, it's going to be the third period of the game between the Celtics and the Pistons. Keep it here.
I think it's going to come down to which team has the stronger will, and which team can force the other team to play that brand of basketball. And everyone knows we want to push the basketball to the floor, and the Lakers now seems as though they want to go to a half-court game.
Well, of course, the L.A. Lakers have never been fan favorites here in Portland. We talked to some locals today, and they seem to be licking their chops for a shot at the hated Lakers.
They've been there before, but it's our turn this time. We're going to do it.
Do you like the Lakers at all?
No, I don't.
Oh, I hate the Lakers. You got to hate the Lakers.
I think that they're not going to have a chance against the Blazers.
I definitely hate Michael Jordan, James Worthy, and Magic Johnson. It's no good.
I think we're going to blow them out.
Cut the jive, we'll get them in 5.
We will see. The Soviet